Here's part 2 of our most recent Legal AI Live on LinkedIn. If you missed part 1, make sure to go subscribe at legalailive.com and check out our YouTube channel or Legal AI Live on any podcast app to catch part 1. Follow the Legal AI Live page on LinkedIn to watch us live. Without further delay, here's part 2.
Both fascinating, yeah, especially the one about, we can bill out our associates that much more expensive because they'll be trained better, I guess. And, thinking back to 2005 when you and I first knew each other, like we cut our teeth doing document review, which didn't make us better lawyers.
That's exactly the example I used.
I mean, we made Robbins Capital a lot of money, but did make us better lawyers? And the answer is probably not. And so really there's a real question as to, if you're not billing out those first and second year associates, maybe they can go down market to serve the people, the 92% of legal needs that are unmet because we lawyers are too expensive. And
Right.
how much more of a training would that be than you and me doing document review? I think we have an opportunity.
Yeah, and I commented more broadly. It was like a discussion with some folks at this event last night. I think the law firm business model is going to collapse. It's collapsing now, but it's going to quickly continue to collapse. But I didn't think that strategy of my second year associates more valuable, hence bills out more. I don't think that's going to work. That's not the direction that the model needs to be going in. So I was like, but it was very, when you get in these rooms and it's like, that's what you think is going to happen? Huh.
Yeah, bless your heart, as people in
Right.
software say.
I was like,
Yeah.
you might lose that client. That was really what I first thought. I was like, yeah, that's not going to be your client anymore. But
That's
try
right.
it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's your client to lose. That's actually a good segue into the maybe topic number 2, where everyone's talking about agents, and OpenClaw really opened the Pandora's box as to how much these bots can be doing a lot of this work. So I'll open it up to the panel. That is everybody who's what do you think of agents? We're kind of moving from an age of chatbots in the old world to maybe agents in the new world, and maybe the agents doing a lot of the work autonomously, either with humans in the loop or maybe humans on the loop where they're overseeing the bots. So I guess I'll open it up to the panel, and maybe Matthew, I'll put you on the spot first. But what do you think about agents, essentially chatbots going the way of the dodo, and agents maybe taking their place?
Yeah, I always think about, I forget what it's from. Is it the Crossing the Chasm book with like early adopters and all that stuff, right? And so I still think we're in like the super early adopter phase for agents, and just like Mythos, it's getting press because it's interesting and people like to talk about it. But like realistically, like who's using agents and like what even is an agent? Like it's at the cutting edge. Like every time I use Comet Browser, that's an agent, right? Don't you think? Like, but it's not like agents how like some people are using OpenClaw. And so, like, I'm not like spending $20K on a Mac Studio, and like how many people are actually doing that? I think it's very few. And I heard this. I'm only bringing this up, Damien, because you brought it up, because Furlong brought it up, and that was about the robot sex. So I once heard somebody say that AI. Law firms using AI is like teenage sex. Like the teenagers are talking about that they're doing it, but nobody's actually doing it because they're teenagers and they don't know what they're doing. And I feel like I think we've crossed that for law firms using AI. I actually think a lot of law firms are using AI now. But agents? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, not in the way that we think about agents. I would love to see more of that. And I'm trying to use Perplexity Computer, but even then, like, it's hard. Like, how do I delegate, right? Like, I had a list I made a year ago of if I had hired a law clerk or a legal extern, like, what kind of tasks would I delegate to them? And I've actually been going back to that and saying, okay, what can Perplexity Computer take over for me and just go off and do? But it's expensive. It's faster than Comet Browser, but I've had to pay for credits to use Perplexity Computer. And I don't know necessarily that it's worth it for me to do it in Perplexity Computer when I could just have Comet Browser do it, even though it takes longer in Comet Browser, but I don't have to do it. And so, yeah, I mean, at the cutting edge, I see agents being used. Otherwise, people are just talking about it. So what tech company is going to make it even easier to use agents? Business opportunity.
Stay tuned, I have to say in that. So, and with that, Sarah, what do you see about agents? Do you think is the chatbots to agents? Are we seeing it?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I agree with Matt that it seems like really cutting edge because like I even recently talked to the CEO of a big law firm and he's all about AI and using AI throughout the entire firm. But when it came to agents, he's like, yeah, I'm reluctant about agents. And there are like security concerns with agents. Like you really have to be careful and think carefully about like how you deploy them. And I even talked to legal tech. There are legal tech vendors that have AI agents, and I talked to them and did a story last year. And yeah, they kind of walk through like the different security concerns and like how they're thinking about them. So I think that'll probably be like one of the things that kind of keeps law firms from using AI agents is the security risk. But they can figure those out or figure out a way to use agents in a way that they feel comfortable, then maybe they will. But yeah, I think it's still on the cutting edge, still really new for law firms.
Sure. Yeah, we're not even at the peak of expectations, so we're going to hit the trough of disillusionment. Greg, what do you think about agents?
Yeah, so I guess piggybacking on that, I serve on the AI governance committee at the American Arbitration Association, and we have a whole framework for evaluating AI use cases where, before a project even begins, you have to list out all the risks and all the mitigation strategies to evaluate, whether something is too risky to move forward. And not that we're early in the agent journey, so we're not seeing a lot of use cases that are deploying OpenClaw or something like that. But the risk surface there is just very different from like a chatbot. You have control over, or we're just generative AI outputs. You fact check them, and you can gain comfort that what you're producing is similar in terms of its risk profile to what a human would do. But with agents, I mean, we've seen stories out there of agents breaking out and doing things that weren't expected, deleting entire code bases. And so that's kind of scary. And I don't know if we're at a place where we have clear best practices for how to mitigate those sorts of risks. And we may not even know what all the risks are to be able to name them. So I agree that, that's maybe a step too far for a lot of enterprises, particularly in legal services with the particular kinds of risks that similar had those uses.
Awesome. Nick, what do you think about agents?
Yeah, so it's a great topic because even myself, right? I went out and I had our friend Daza give me a crash course because even myself, as usually a early adopter in most things, I was like, I'm not sure I fully understand this. So I had to go and learn about it. Now, but even that, even as an early adopter, a little bit like Matthew was covering, I don't think that most people are using them yet, because even in my own work environment and my own workflow, I'll default to the chatbot version of Claude or the skill, the projects, those types of things, because that flows for me. Getting my mind around, okay, is this a task that I need to automate, right? Not always. Is it something that, because it's kind of a one-off. So I don't think, nobody that I know outside of those of us in legal tech and tech as a whole, who are, either active on Twitter or LinkedIn and talking about this stuff, not a lot of people beyond that do I know who are A, using AI yet, and B, using it outside of the chats. So I think I know that it's got incredible abilities because I've tested them. I've had it go out and research topics for me, come back. I've had it set, reservations for me, things like that are really great uses for it. Are the demands on my time such that I need it to do that all the time? Not yet. So if it's just if it was something that was really taking up a ton of my time, yeah, I want to automate that and I want to put an agent in charge of it if I can have that running. But I'd probably also want a separate computer for it because I want it to be able to run right constantly in the background while I'm still doing the other stuff that I need to do. So I think the agents are a topic of conversation for probably most users at this point. And like Matthew said, you're doing the 20x user. I think you're in the 0.01% of chatbot users, or not chatbot, agent users, because A, you're doing it on vacation, and B, you're using tokens so incredibly, such a huge number of tokens. Whereas myself, I've run out of tokens once or twice, right? I've hit the limit. I flew too close to the sun like the first day I got it. But then after that, I've been staying kind of within my $20 a month membership and haven't although I've seen some needs where I'm like, yeah, if I really want to do this project, I'd purchase, I'd upgrade for a short amount of time. But I think it's probably even those of us in here who are pretty active with it, you and Matthew and Greg are killing it and seem to be using it for even more than I'm using it for these days. Nicole, we haven't talked in a while, and Sarah, this is my first time meeting you, so I don't know what your uses are or how much you're using it, but I have to imagine most people are defaulting to the chat right now because it's still so impressive and so helpful, right? I mean, it still does a ton of what you need it to do.
True, that's true. And there's a saying that the best camera you have is the one you have on you, and often the chatbot is the thing you have with you rather than having to build it.
Yep.
Nicole, thoughts on agents?
I am really excited and terrified at the same time. The IAPP event, I learned a lot more about how agents are being deployed more on the business side. So like if I parse it, marketing teams are using it a ton. The whole ad tech world is using it a ton. And I had no idea. So I was like, this is super interesting. But for going back to just the world that I live in legal, I think we're unlike yourself. I think you are a super user and you acknowledge that. With the rest of us are not. I'm not personally. I think Greg's comments resonated a lot with me about AI governance and sort of managing risks, and Nick's comments as well in terms of the chatbot is doing it for me. So just the little discrete project outputs of need you to summarize this, organize this, tell me more about X so I can plop it in my syllabus or provide an assignment or whatever right now is making my world go faster and better. I'm so curious and excited about agents at the same time. I need to come meet you, Damien, and get like the crash course. I don't know if Daz is gonna give me enough basics. He might be like, this is beyond what I do, lady. But no, I would love to learn more, but I do think use cases for law are a little further out.
And shout out to Daza. I'm going to see him on Monday in Stanford. He's putting on an agent forum at Stanford. So yeah. So
Of course he is.
I'm
of
gonna
course he is.
and I'm gonna miss both you. I don't know if you're gonna stick around Saturday. I was thinking maybe I'll come over on Saturday, but
Sadly, yeah.
I'm upset I won't be there.
Yeah, c'est la vie. Yeah, so many events. So Greg,
You're gonna have to poke him and have him come on the show. Who knows Daza? And I've had him on Law Subscribe, but he needs to come on Legal AI Live.
100%. That is absolutely true. Greg, what do you think about agents?
I mean, I think they're fascinating, and the potential to 100x one's productivity is there. And I've built a little bit with them in my personal life just because I don't really feel comfortable using them at work. And it's a lot of effort to set them up. Like just giving an agent, I had to set up an email account for it and get all the connections in place and then test it and everything. It's a lot of work. And, I've built rudimentary software before, so I'm kind of used to those workflows. But I just think it's also going to be not impossible for people to surmount, but just a daunting challenge for people to even get started with. And so I think that's the first problem that really has to be addressed before you get really wide adoption outside of, real technologists or enterprises that are comfortable using them.
Yeah, I think that remember the old days when building a website was really hard because you had to know HTML and you need to do all that. And then with WordPress, it became easier. And then with things like there's Wix, it became even easier yet. So I see that we see that coming with agents, where you had OpenClaw, which you needed a PhD almost to be able to set it up, and even then it's security things galore. But now NVIDIA has created their own OpenClaw, and they've put a bunch of guardrails on it, and they've essentially sandboxed it so that it won't see your other things. It'll just be essentially within a sandbox, so it won't delete your hard drive and that kind of thing. So I think that we're in the HTML days of websites, and I think that we are just going to continue. I think these security questions are going to go away. So that's point number one. Point number two is that I saw somebody on LinkedIn say that they've built their agentic law firm, which is quite interesting, where they say that they have, let's have a thought experiment. What if you have a bot associate taking all of your client's documents, be able to say, okay, the client's talking about things, oh, that seems like breach of contract, or that seems like trade secret infringement. So doing issue spotting and then doing the research to say, okay, they've mentioned New York and California, so I'm going to research breach of contract in New York versus breach of contract in California and trade secret in both of those. And then I'm going to take all of the facts and put them into each of the elements of the claims in California and New York. And then realize, oh, wait, in California, claim number 3 is missing. So then ask the client questions to be able to fill in bucket number 3 of element number 3. And then throw that up to the partner bot, who then criticizes the associate bot, and then go back and forth with it, making it better. And then throw it over to opposing counsel bot, where then opposing counsel bot is able to say, no, I'm going to win because these are the ways that I'm going to beat you. And then that makes the associate bots work better. And then throw it up to the judge bot, who the judge is going to say, I'm going to fine for the plaintiff on this thing, but the defendant on that thing. But don't throw it up to one judge bot, throw it up to 10 judge bots or 100 judge bots. And all of this will happen before any human has ever seen it, right? So then take that hardened in the crucible kind of work and then throw it, that's what the human sees for the first time. So I think that this is where we're headed with agents, is that people are wowed by chatbots, justifiably, but if they're wowed by chatbots, man, you ain't seen nothing yet with the agents. So I think that we are in a brave new world going forward. Matthew,
Yeah.
seems like, go ahead.
Yeah, so in like trying to see if there's any comments here, I remembered that I teased everybody in posting about this month's Legal AI Live I found out how much Harvey costs for small firms at ABA Tech Show. And so they didn't have me sign an NDA. Although when I asked if I could take a picture of it to post about Harvey, because I'm positive on some of what I saw, they were like, well, for that, we're going to have you sign an NDA. So I was like, well, I'm not subject to one. So I'm going to talk about how much Harvey said it costs, at least at ABA Tech Show. Prices could always change, right? So, and I was surprised. And so
Wait, I got to know. Are you going to say it?
I'm going to say it. I'm going to
publicly?
share it right now.
Oh, you're teasing it out.
Yeah, I'm teasing it out. I'm going to say it right now.
Gotcha.
So minimum 5 seats. So for true solos like myself, sorry, Harvey is not, they don't have a product for us. But if you are not a true solo, but say you have a team of 4 other people who would also maybe, be using the tool and in the tool, it's $25,000 for the year. So $5,000 per person, which comes out to about $417 a month. Now, of course, this is annual paid in advance for all 5 seats, but $417 a month for legal tech is actually kind of reasonable. And I was really surprised that they're able to reduce their price there. Now, I'm sure for larger contracts and their bigger enterprise deals, it's more expensive per month per seat. But that was probably the best they could do for smaller firms. And I was really happy to see that. One of the things that I was positive on from Harvey at Tech Show is very few tools could currently already fully integrate with Google Workspace, and my talk was on Google Workspace at ABA Tech Show, and so I'm big on Google Workspace, and theirs does already. Now, of course, they've been around for a while; they've raised enough money, it's better. But I could just connect my whole Google Drive, and it has access to that. And like I wasn't able to test it, right? But at least possibly I could do RAG against my whole firm's Google Drive inside of this AI tool. That's phenomenal if it actually works. Like I said, I didn't get to test it. And some of the chat-based interfaces were interesting. Now, they did have some agentic workflows that you could build. But as I got into that, and I'm pretty tech savvy, I was like, okay, there's drop-down menus instead of drop-down menus. There's weird flow charts. Like at a certain point, I'm lost and I'm tech savvy. And they said, well, that's where our, I don't remember what they called it, but like their concierge program takes over and they could come in and help you. And so that doesn't help solos and smalls. We like to do things ourselves and keep costs low. And so it makes me think of Descript and Comet Browser, and how when I don't know how to do something in Descript because I'm not an actual trained professional audio and video editor, I could just vibe and chat with the Underlord AI assistant in an agentic way. It will now go and do the things that I just instructed it to do in the same way Comet Browser can for stuff in a browser. So where is that inside of the legal AI tools for lawyers who just want to chat to something and let that agentic stuff take over? So Damien, I tried my best to tie it back into this topic of conversation. How did I do?
You did a great job. Yeah, certainly that being able to ask the tool how to use the tool best, I think that's only going to increase. And I would say that, I was just listening to an A16Z podcast, and they were talking about how really the take it or leave it kind of software model maybe is going away. Because if you could be able to say, hey, I love the software, but it has 20 buttons. I just need these 3. To be able to vibe code, to be able to say, now you just see 3 buttons. That's what at least one company is doing right now. And I can imagine that's going to be even more going forward. With 7 minutes left, let's go around the horn, maybe with our parting shot. And I'm going to give everyone the option of 3 things to talk about. One of these 3, go ahead and talk about. One is not something I saw at ABA Tech Show, saying that a lot of these vendors are meeting lawyers where they work, whether where they work is Microsoft Word or Google Workspace or email. Essentially, software meeting lawyers where they work. That's option number one. Option number two is legal AI going vertical. That is just focusing on litigation or just focusing on transactional. So number one, in meeting lawyers where they work. Number two, vertical. Number three is maybe going to data intelligence. That is be able to extract the data that matters from my firm. So I'll go around why don't we go around the horn and we could be able to think through all three of those. Pick one, meeting lawyers where they work, vertical practice area, or data as the thing. Greg, I'll start with you.
So I'll start with door number three, I guess. This is slightly different than what you're asking, but we've been collecting a lot of survey data lately. And I've been using AI to analyze it and find interesting patterns. And I think it's going to be really important for how we sort of describe what we're finding in the data and customizing it to different verticals, really. So it has such a huge and important role in that. And in situations where you have, tens of thousands of records, or you could slice the data in a million different ways, the AI can really think through all of that for you, and it's just a really powerful, I think, workflow.
Awesome. Next on my screen is Nick.
Yeah, so I have to go with number one because I think this is always the primary thing, is it's meeting your user where they're at, meeting your user in their workflow. For whatever, 6 years, I had 130 podcast interviews with probably 100 plus legal tech founders, and those who got it built into the Microsoft ecosystem, and those who had some certain success were built into the Microsoft ecosystem from the get-go. I'm not saying you only have to do that today, but it really helped. If you were going to sell something to a lawyer, meet them where they are. That's why workflows are so incredibly important to this day. So I think, we see a lot of point solutions developing here in the legal space and other, but I think you have to meet them where they do their work. And let's not forget that there's many other legal professionals in the firm. Meet them where they work, because paralegal, Geo is probably Geo's a little like my dad as far as he is very capable and very innovative, tech savvy lawyer. But the paralegals are usually very tech savvy and they are using the tools. And so if you're doing legal AI or legal tech in general, don't forget about the paralegals and legal secretaries who are doing a significant amount of the work.
Amen. God bless paralegals and all the legal professionals that are not lawyers. Nicole, what do you think?
I'm going to pick the vertical, legal AI going vertical. I know we only have a few more minutes, so I'll keep it short. I think that will be one of the best sort of business models to get better and quicker adoption. Because you know how we are as lawyers. Well, I don't really care about litigation. I'm a transaction person. Well, I don't really care about, immigration. I'm a, corporate finance person. So like that will, sadly keep us in our silos. But I do think from an adoption perspective, you might gain some traction faster and perhaps build out tools that are customizable enough that Clio will, pick it up and then just pull it into its monster universe.
I'm not going to comment on that one way or the other.
No, I know.
Sarah, what do you want to take your pick of which of the three you want to talk about?
Sure, I'll go with the first one, meeting lawyers where they work with the software. When I talk to a lot of big law firms about how they're getting lawyers to adopt AI, that is one of the things that they says really helps, like meeting the lawyer where they work. So it definitely seems like that's a good strategy for AI adoption.
Yeah, and I wonder, and before we get to Matthew, which I want to hear, I wonder if meeting lawyers where they work is something that historically you've had to do, but lawyers increasingly are getting used to using ChatGPT and copying and pasting into ChatGPT. So I wonder if the requirement of the old days, you have to go to Word, I wonder if that's falling away a little bit. But Matthew, you can take your pick of the three. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I heard a legal tech founder just today I had a call with say they're building an MCP for Claude because that's where their lawyers are working. And they're going to meet them there. But I kind of gave my opinion on that earlier in the conversation. I'm going to go legal AI going vertical. I actually think this is a great thing because in the same complaints I have about Harvey having a 5-seat minimum, it's like, why am I paying for all these features of this tool that I'm not even going to use, right? I'd rather have a best of breed tech tool. Like when I'm all in on Google Workspace and they have Google Appointments, right, for scheduling. The first subscription we had after Google Workspace when we founded Practi was Calendly, because it's a vertical solution that's feature rich, doing one thing better than anybody else for a phenomenal price, and that's scheduling. And so I think AI going vertical is a great thing for the profession and for the clients that we serve.
Yeah, that's 100% right. Yeah, I think that there's always the question: do you go deep or do you go wide? And I wonder if with AI you can do both.
Well, there's always places for generalist tools too, right? Like you do both. Like you do, like as a user, like I love generalist tools and I love vertical tools.
Yeah. And there's, everybody says, oh, I want a one-stop shop so I don't have to context switch between the other thing. But then if you build a one-stop shop, you're like, oh, I had no idea that Microsoft Word could do all these things because I only use it for this one, right? So there's always the push-pull that you want the broad, but then you also want the deep, but you also discoverability of the deep is really hard if you do
If
the
only
broad.
my AI could do formatting inside of Word. It's called styles. It's called styles. It already does it, right? Like
It's true. And Google, speaking of, you're in the Google ecosystem. Yeah, styles in Google, they need to work on styles a little bit, I think, in the Google ecosystem. But I think sadly we've come to the top of our hour. I want to thank everybody. This has been great fun. Thanks for being such smart people during my debut. And thanks, Matthew, for helping me to come to the fore here.
So Damien, thank you. Damien, of course, is with Clio, Greg with AAA, Nick with experts.com, Sarah with Law 360, and Nicole, I don't know, you're an educator. Do you have any website to promote?
No. EmoryLaw.com.
Okay, there we
Or
go. If you want to go to Emory.
Emory.edu. Emory
Okay.
University.
All right.
Edu.
All right, there you go. So thanks, everybody. We'll be back here second Friday of next month. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.